So you probably remember this ringtone from your childhood days. For me, it's one of the most iconic sounds from early 2000s, marking the start of a new era in mobile phone industry. It was a time when Nokia was the most dominant cell phone manufacturer in the world. Okay, so Nokia wasn't just a phone manufacturer, it was the king of cell phone market and an unstoppable force dominating over 50% of the global mobile market. They sold over 100 million phones every year, making them not just a tech giant, but a corporate powerhouse with a market value of nearly $300 billion. Everybody's first phone was most likely a Nokia, rugged, reliable, and built to last. But then, something unexpected happened. The company that once defined reliability and innovation started to crumble. Even Microsoft's $7.2 billion purchase of Nokia in 2014 turned out to be a disaster. And just a few years later, Microsoft wrote off the entire acquisition as a complete loss, selling the remaining parts of Nokia's phone division for a mere $350 million. So the question is, how could Nokia, the king of phones, lose its crown so fast? How did their annual sales fall from 100 million phones to less than 20 million? And how did their revenue plummet from $60 billion to just $6 billion? This is the story of the rise, fall, and transformation of Nokia, the king of phones. But first, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on more informative content like this. Let's get started. The rise of a king. Look, Nokia wasn't always about phones. It began in 1865 as a paper mill along the Nokian Virta River in Finland. Over the decades, it transformed into diverse industries, including rubber and cables, before entering telecommunications. And by the 1980s, Nokia ventured into mobile communications, a move that would define its future. The 1990s saw Nokia dominate the mobile phone market with devices like Nokia 1011, one of the first mass-produced GSM phones, and the iconic Nokia 3310, known for its durability. By early 2000s, Nokia was a global giant selling over 100 million phones annually and holding a market share of more than 50%. Its phones weren't just gadgets, they were a cultural phenomena remembered fondly for their rugged build and reliable performance. And by the early 2000s, Nokia became synonymous with mobile phones. Their devices like the indestructible Nokia 3310 were everywhere. Nokia's dominance was so profound that its financial success became a pillar for Finland's economy, turning the company into a national pride. Their simplistic user interfaces and a reputation of indestructible hardware helped solidify Nokia as a market leader. At their peak, they were valued at nearly $300 billion, dominating the market with sales exceeding 100 million phones annually in 2007. But 2007 was the same year Apple announced its revolutionary iPhone.
CEO Steve Jobs announced the iPhone.
Several 100,000 people lined up Friday night and Saturday morning just to have the first one, just for that cool factor.
And while Nokia seemed unstoppable, cracks in its dominance started to form. And in 2005, they introduced the Memo Linux-based operating system with Nokia 770 tablet. And by 2008, they even launched a touchscreen phone. Look, we all know Nokia for building famously durable phones. People joked they could survive anything, and memes about the infamous Nokia phones were all over the internet. But consumers were shifting priorities. Phones were evolving from simple calling devices into small, powerful computers. And while Apple and Android phones adopted 3G and 4G, Nokia still sold phones without even 3G capabilities, which was sort of embarrassing for an industry leader. Then came branding, which Apple nailed with the iPhone, and Samsung captured the masses with the Galaxy series. But Nokia, they rolled out names like 5800 Express Music, 808 PureView, which was, to be honest, confusing and not so relatable. Nokia's brand value began to fade away. The core problem, however, was overconfidence. Nokia assumed their reputation as the cell phone king was enough. But that reputation was tied to the feature phones, not smartphones. And instead of rebranding to match the new era, they clung to their past and watched customers flock to Apple and Samsung. By the early 2010, Nokia was losing relevance fast. And by 2013, they were selling less than 20 million phones a year. Yet, just as things hit rock bottom, a glimmer of hope emerged in the form of Microsoft. So in 2010, Nokia partnered with Microsoft in a desperate move, focusing on Windows Mobile instead of Android, and brought in Stephen Elop, a former Microsoft executive, as their CEO. Just months later, they signed a partnership with Microsoft to make Windows Mobile their main operating system. At first, this seemed like a bold move to stay relevant, but it quickly turned into a disaster. Look, the problem was Windows Mobile wasn't built for touchscreens like iOS or Android. it felt like a clunky version of Windows and supported only a handful of apps. Nokia didn't even step up their hardware game, launching phones like the Lumia 630 with outdated specs like no 4G, no flash, no selfie cam, all while Apple and Samsung were leaping ahead with cutting-edge features. Despite these issues, Nokia and Microsoft were overly confident. And remember that cringeworthy fake funeral for Apple they staged? Yes, that didn't age well. Under Elope, Nokia's market share collapsed from 33% to just 3%. Their stock price tanked by 62% and losses piled up to $4.9 billion. And even then, instead of pivoting to Android, Elope doubled down the production of Windows Mobile and eventually pushed Microsoft to buy Nokia's phone division for $7.2 billion. But even Microsoft didn't have a better plan. Their phones flopped badly, and by 2016, they shut down the whole division, selling off the remains for just $350 million. This left Nokia in ruins, while Elope conveniently eloped to Microsoft. The only silver lining in Nokia's downfall was that Microsoft didn't buy the entire company. They only acquired the phone division, leaving Nokia with its networking business, which forced Nokia to rethink its strategy. And with their focus shifted to networking, they corrected their past mistakes. For instance, Nokia became the first to demonstrate a 5G-ready network in 2016, and by 2017, Nokia was back in the Fortune 500 list, cementing its position as the third largest telecommunication equipment manufacturer, trailing behind Huawei and Ericsson. When Microsoft exited the phone business, Nokia's remnants were sold off. HMD Global, led by former Nokia executives, acquired the brand's right, while Foxconn took over the manufacturing. Together, they revived Nokia phones, launching their first Android-powered device in early 2017. Though they entered the Android market late, Nokia focused on affordable phones targeting budget-conscious consumers. And by 2021, they shipped around 10 million phones annually, which was impressive given their earlier struggles. But things again took a turn for Nokia. As of 2024, the Nokia HMD deal expired and HMD Global decided not to renew it, meaning no more smartphones from them with the Nokia branding. And the reasons were again ignorance of what is happening around and launching smartphones with outdated specs and at a price that is out of the roof. And while Nokia is not very lucky with its phone division, it is still in the market with its networking division. Lessons from Nokia's story. Look, Nokia's journey is a tale of dominance, complacency, and reinvention. Their downfall reminds us that no company is too big to fail. To survive in a world of rapid change, innovation and adaptability are the key. And today, Nokia thrives as a leader in telecommunication infrastructure, providing that reinvention is possible even after monumental losses. So what do you think? Can Nokia ever reclaim its throne, or is their role in the history as a tech giant already written? Let me know your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more stories like this one.